Welcome to the third edition of the BP Ultimate Rally-Raid Portugal. The stars were out in Grândola at the official start ceremony as the world's best riders and drivers geared up for round 2 of the World Rally-Raid Championship. As ever, we can expect thrills, spills and chills. For the third straight year, Grândola hosts the start of the rally with a prologue for bikes only and then a loop around the town on the first full stage. Stage 2 takes us to Badajoz before a third stage entirely on Spanish soil. It'll then be back to Portugal to the new finishing city of Loulé in the Algarve, over 1,200 kilometres of racing on the menu. And we can expect a very different event from the second edition back in September, with rain forecast throughout the week. The million-dollar question is, how much? The early World Championship leader in the bikes is Luciano Benavides. In January, he won the Dakar by just 2 seconds from Ricky Brabec after a final day that will live long in the memory. Now the Argentine is targeting a second world crown.
This is my next goal, try to be world champion on the same year that I won Dakar, because it's something that any Latin American rider has done that. So for me, it's a big challenge, it's a big goal.
Well, Portugal is, of course, a very different beast from Saudi Arabia, more Baja style, and it doesn't necessarily suit the guys who grew up in the open desert.
This is probably my least favorite round, just because it's not very something I'm not super confident riding around these roads. And now with the forecast, we got some rain coming, so it's going to make it a little bit more sketchy out there.
I think they don't like because they don't understand this kind of terrain. They were born in the desert directly. So yeah, for us, for the Europe riders, it's always so fun to ride here in these kind of terrains.
Tyres will also play a big role this week, with most riders opting for the softer Baja version that offers better grip, especially in wet conditions. But it does wear out faster than the normal desert tyre.
I think it's going to be up to the weather gods. It looks like possible 3 days of rain, chances of rain, but we don't know what valleys and the mountains are going to do and what the weather gods are going to bring to the race week.
Well, Daniel Sanders and Tosha Schreiner are no doubt the favourites this week, but Hero are also up for the fight with Nacho Cornejo and Ross Branch. There are 9 Rally GP riders in all, plus a host of Rally 2 riders, a mixture of rookies and top talents, including the World Cup leader, Tony Mulech. The Rally 3 and quad classes also get their season underway in Portugal, with a total of 45 FIM riders on the start list. Gentlemen, prepare to start your engines. Well, the big news in the cars is that Dacia are pulling out of Rally-Raid at the end of 2026. But it's not Dachau just yet, and the Sand Riders have a formidable lineup here. Sebastian Loeb, Lucas Morais and Nasser Al-Attiyah.
We win Dakar, and Dacia really doing amazing job, from beginning. We build really a nice car, and now we are here in the second round of championship, We know Portugal Rally is really one of the difficult race, and the time between all the competitor will be really close.
After failing to crack the top 7 at the Dakar, Toyota are looking to hit back this week. The Japanese brand represented by a host of different factory and private teams.
Yeah, we used up all of our bad luck hopefully in Dakar, and this week should be a bit cleaner. The tasting's been good, the car feels good, we feel good, so ready to start now.
Over at Ford, Carlos Sainz has a new co-driver in Dani Oliveras after bringing an end to his hugely successful partnership with Lucas Cruz. El Matador is looking forward to the week.
It's always special for me to come back to Portugal. The passion the Portuguese people has for motorsport, for rallying, for rally-raid, it's really big, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
The start list is littered with star names across the car classes, with Defender bringing their full lineup in stock. Rokas Baciuska, Sarah Price and the Rally-Raid GOAT Stefan Petterhansel ready for another rumble. Old friends and new challenges in the Challengers, with Alexander Pinto switching from the SSVs and trying out the BBR Taurus, while Dakar champion Pau Navarro tests the all-new Viking prototype, the pride of Latvia. Finally, in the SSVs, the W2RC frontrunners will face stiff competition from the local talent. The BP Ultimate Rally-Raid Portugal always tries to get the fans as close to the action as possible, whether it's on or off the track. Consequently, ahead of the first stage, they were invited along to the service park in Grândola to meet their heroes. After several days of glorious sunshine, the riders were greeted by rainfall on the morning of stage 1. The ground already muddy after the heavens had finally opened the night before, so it was time to psych themselves up for a tough start to this rally in cold and wet conditions. Well, first off the line was Nacho Cornejo, who ended up top of the start list after the top 10 riders from the prologue had made their choices. However, the Chilean's rally was short-lived. On stage 2, his hero gave up the ghost after taking on too much water. It wouldn't restart, and Nacho was forced to withdraw.
We're gonna keep working hard for Argentina to redeem ourselves. The team had been doing an amazing job with the bike, so yeah, a bit sad for not be able to bring the bike to the finish this time, but for sure we'll have other opportunities.
Luciano Benavides has big plans for this season, but the Argentine was out of sorts in the early days of the rally. Still recovering from knee surgery after his Dakar triumph and not really comfortable on this kind of terrain, the World Championship leader was already 10 minutes off the pace after the first 2 stages. Well, this was the first round of the World Cup for quads, and once again the CF Moto Thunder Racing boys made a dominant start. Antanas Kanopkinas won the opener. Having come second at the first 2 editions of this rally, he was determined to make a splash and go one better in 2026. But it was his teammate Adomas Gančierius leading after the first 2 stages. The Lithuanian back at a W2RC event for the first time in 3 years, but showing no signs of rust. He won stage 2 to go 3 minutes clear of Kanopkinas. In Rally 3, meanwhile, local rider Gonzalo Amaral was on a charge. He already won this class in 2024 and went quickest on the prologue and the first 2 stages to open up a 40-minute lead. His brother Salvador was also doing a solid job, occupying 2nd place in the standings. The Amarals hoping to repeat their 1-2 from 2 years ago after enduring a torrid time back in September. Now, Ross Branch soon found himself flying the flag solo for Hero after Cornejo was forced out. Considering he's another rider who doesn't really like the wet and muddy tracks, the Motswana was acquitting himself admirably. He sat just outside the top 5 after 2 stages.
Personally, I'm not really familiar with this kind of terrain and I don't really enjoy it. Just the ups and the downs and riding on the side of the cliff, I'm scared of heights. But it was good.
Ricky Brabeck was also faring better than expected, a place ahead of Branch in 5th overall. Earlier, the American told us this is his least favourite round of the W2RC, but he was fighting hard to limit any potential damage. At this point, he had only dropped around 8.5 minutes to the front runners. Having grown up in the north of France, Adrien van Beveren knows a thing or two about rainfall, and he is a lot more comfortable on these tracks than most. After 2 stages, he was 3rd overall, only 2 minutes and 17 seconds down on the leader. The Frenchman says that at 35 years of age, he feels in the best shape of his life. 2 years ago, Bruno Santos finished third overall at the BP Ultimate Rally-Raid Portugal and won the Rally 2 class. The Portuguese star was once again keen to prove he can mix it up with the best in the business and came agonisingly close to victory on stage 2, just 2 seconds behind Tosha Schreiner. Bruno's nerves perhaps getting the better of him.
That sensation with all the people, Portuguese and Spanish people in the track, doing all the time, you are the first, you are the first. Maybe I was not able to hold on all that pressure, and next time I need to believe until the end.
For the second straight year, the rally quickly turned into a mano-a-mano between Schreiner and Daniel Sanders. In fact, since this event was created in 2024, they are the only two men to have led the overall standings in the bikes. Tosha's engine cut out after one river crossing on stage 1, so he lost a little time, but he won stage 2 to keep the pressure on Sanders at the top. Well, Sanders won the prologue to put himself in a strong position for the rest of the week, and then grabbed the stage 1 victory and kept the overall lead when Tosha won stage 2. The Aussie looking absolutely determined to defend his Portugal title. Not bad for a man who had surgery to fix a broken collarbone after his crash at the Dakar. Physically, he was looking on point.
I realised that I didn't even have my hose connected to my camelback, so I didn't drink the whole time. So yeah, we're looking forward to the next few days, and yeah, body's feeling strong and fine. Didn't notice anything.
Well, lest we forget, the BP Ultimate Rally-Raid Portugal also has a Spanish flavour to it. For 2 days, the rally set up shop in Badajoz, the largest city in Extremadura, which dates back more than 1,000 years. No doubt the competitors would have been happy to have a bit more of this sunshine throughout the week. There was no prologue for the cars this week, with the FIA deciding to simplify the format and send the drivers out in World Championship order. Newly crowned Dakar champion at Nasser Al-Attiyah would therefore be first out of the gate on stage 1. The Qatari explained that being the first car on muddy tracks means you have no reference point for braking, so it's hard to maintain good speed. He and Fabien Lurcan shipped 6 minutes over the first 2 stages, which is pretty significant in a rally of fine margins.
6 minutes is a lot, you know. It's not easy, but okay, we try, you know, to think about the championship. This is important.
Henk Lattegen had been hoping his luck would change after running into all sorts of issues at the Dakar, but the South African suffered rear axle damage on the very first stage and lost more than half an hour. A major blow to his chances of getting back on track in the World Championship. Saud Variawa also saw his overall hopes ruined after a run-in with a tree stump early in the first stage. That forced him and co-driver François Cazelet into some bush mechanics. We were in a narrow section and we hit a tree stump, so we broke the brake disc. It got worse and we ended up damaging the hub completely. We've tried to build a makeshift replacement so we can finish the stage. But if their day was bad, Ford's was an absolute disaster. Matthias Ekstrom and Carlos Sainz were both forced to withdraw from the rally altogether on stage 1 due to serious mechanical issues. A real shame for the team after an excellent Dakar, where they finished with 3 cars inside the top 5.
Unfortunately, the rally finished very, very early. All the practice we wanted to do with Danny, now it's going to be delayed, but yeah, we know this is a tough business. We know it's not easy.
You know, it's not about how many times you fall down, it's about how many times you get back up. And we will get back up and come back stronger.
Well, so much for the losers on day 1, but the winner was João Ferreira. the Portuguese star getting off to the perfect start on home soil. He said that in these conditions it's almost impossible to push hard because you are bound to hit trouble if you do.
It was super slippery, super easy to make mistakes. We saw a lot of drivers already with problems and stops, so I think the race will be very demanding for us and for the mechanical side as well. Okay, just the first day of 5, so still a long way to go.
Matías Eriduri made a decent start, but things went awry halfway through the rally when he hit a tree stump as well and put his Century CR7 on its side. He and Loic Minaudier had to walk a kilometre in different directions to find enough people to get it back on the wheels. Seth Quintero had a hard time actually getting to Portugal because his flight over was grounded by a tornado. However, as soon as he jumped into that Toyota Hilux, it was 3-2-1 liftoff. The young American with back-to-back stage podiums to sit third.
For us to be, let's say, 10 seconds apart with 75K to go is pretty wild after 300K at that point. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I can be one of the front runners, and hopefully we can keep it that way.
Just 13 seconds ahead of Quintero after 2 stages was Guy Bottrill. The South African adopting a slightly more cautious approach, which paid off as he improved from 4th on stage 1 to 2nd on stage 2. At that point, he was only 40 seconds off the rally lead. And this was the man he was chasing. 9-time World Rally Champion Sebastian Loeb, who knows a thing or two about racing in these conditions. Even if he occasionally struggled with the changing levels of grip, the Dacia Sand Rider proved that he is also a decent muddy puddle rider as well. He won stage 2 by just 9 seconds from Bottrill to snatch the overall lead.
Yeah, it was a great battle today with Bottrill and Quintero. It was very tight between us. So everybody is pushing hard. The stages are nice to drive. I had really fun in the car. So we'll try to continue.
Hello, this is Bart van der Velde, team manager from the Bas World KTM team. Here in Portugal we use 2 sets of different rear tires. Left from me you see the normal desert tire. The tire has bigger knobs but lower knobs, so the tire is a stronger tire, especially for in the stones. On the sandy days, and now here like in Portugal we use the Desert Baja. It has smaller but higher knobs, so it's not so strong as the normal Desert. Yeah, especially here in the muddy conditions, the Desert Baja rear tire has much more traction, so it's stopping the bike with braking much better. Coming out of the corner it has much more traction. It's always a bit gambling, if there are stones, no stones. There is also a difference in rules between Rally GP and Rally 2. The Rally 2 can choose whatever tire they want, and Rally GP needs to decide the tire before the race starts. So if a Rally GP rider decides to go with the normal desert tire, they cannot go to the other tire. We have 3 riders in the team, so for every rider we bring 1 set for each day. So every day we swap the Michelin tires and the Moses.
Well, sometimes the bikers can make Rally-Raid look easy, but trust us, it really isn't. And even the best can obviously run into trouble. Poor old Ricky Brabeck was crossing a river at one point on stage 3 and his whole bike fell in the water. Remarkably, he managed to bring it to the finish, but lost over 15 minutes and dropped to 11th overall. The American set to lose ground in the W2RC.
We were, doing good for the championship, and yeah, I understand it's only one race and there's a lot more to go, but I just love this stuff too much to, just brush it off my shoulders and keep going.
Skylar Howes was another man who had a week to forget, never going higher than 7th place and finishing more than half an hour off the pace. The American admits Portugal is a nice change of pace from the desert, but he still got his butt kicked, in his words, by the European enduro guys. At least he and everybody else was getting plenty of support from the fans. Niels Terek made his move on stage 4 and admitted he had a big smile on his face after catching the top 2 from Dakar, Luciano Benavides and Ricky Brabeck. The Frenchman jumping from 10th to 8th overall, and that's where he ended up. The battle was on to finish as the top Portuguese rider at this 3rd edition, and Martin Ventura was giving it his best shot. The Honda factory man suffered an injury before the rally, but decided to grit his teeth and keep racing. With one stage to go, he was about 3 minutes down on the leading national rider, Bruno Santos.
I know I have the rhythm, but yeah, I'm not in the best condition, but from what I'm able to do, I'm happy.
There was a big twist in the quads on stage 4. Adomas Gantierius originally won the day and looked on course for overall victory, but a mechanical problem on the long liaison from Badajoz to Lulé meant he arrived late to the service park and was slapped with an hour and 14 minutes of penalties. That handed the rally lead and in all likelihood the win to his teammate Antanas Kanopkinas. In Rally 3, Muran Puravdorj denied Gonzalo Amaral a clean sweep by taking the class honours on stage 3. An impressive fight back from the 7-time Mongolian champion, who injured his hand and lost over 5 hours on stage 1. Edgar Canet said he learned a lot this week. The young Spaniard, who turned 21 before the prologue, admitted he probably made the wrong tyre choice, sticking with the desert tyres rather than the wet weather Bajas. But with one stage to go, he was still in the hunt for 4th place overall. And this was the man he was chasing, Bruno Santos. The Portuguese star grabbed 2nd place again on stage 3, but his hopes of securing another overall podium were undone by a nasty crash towards the start of stage 4.
I crashed very fast. I was coming full gas and just a little corner, very easy. My moto slippery totally, the 2 wheels, it was like I was on the ice.
Santos losing almost 13 minutes, but thankfully still in one piece. That put Adrian van Beveren in firm control of 3rd place overall. After stage 3, he was locked on exactly the same time as Santos, but by the end of stage 4, he had a 10-minute buffer. The Frenchman, who loves racing out here in Portugal, closing on his first W2RC podium since Dakar 2025. But up at the front, it was still Tosha Shariner and Daniel Sanders setting the pace. The Spaniard lost a couple of minutes when he was opening on stage 3, but then roared back to win stage 4. He would go into the final day trailing Sanders by 1 minute and 46 seconds and ready to pounce on any mistakes.
For sure, everything can happen. You know that he is so difficult to take that time back because everyone is so tight in the times. Yeah, for sure, we will have a good battle tomorrow.
Well, Sanders continuing to show the same irrepressible form that helped him to dominate the 2025 season. The Aussie declaring that he takes racing seriously and has every intention of defending his championship title. After stage 4, he was just 100 kilometres away from another overall success.
we'll push straight from the get-go and don't take our eyes off the road book or the tracks in front. Yeah, prepare the body and the bike, and we'll get ready for the last day. We know it comes down to the final kilometres in all races, so yeah, we'll make sure we're focused right until the end.
Left entry, tight right, caution, it's twisty. 200. Oh! Right, left. What the f? Are you alright?
Yeah, unfortunately we came up the crest a little bit too quick and had nowhere to go, and we tried to take the straight line and avoid taking the corner because there was a big pile of rocks in front of us, and we ended up hitting a ditch and going end over end. It's a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, frustrating.
Rally over for Henk Latterken and Brett Cummings then, but Yazid Al-Rajhi was still plugging away. The Saudi is gradually getting back to 100% after his nasty crash at Baja Jordan almost a year ago, and despite some adventures with the windscreen this week, he finished in 6th place overall. For the second year running, Francisco Barreto finished as the second-ranked Portuguese driver at this event. The SVR privateer unable to match the pace of his factory stablemate João Ferreira, but he still did a solid job to come 8th overall. After failing to win any stages at this year's Dakar, Lucas Morais finally got a monkey off his back as he picked up his first victory for Dacia. The Brazilian took the honours on stage 3 to jump right back into contention overall, the defending champion just 1 minute and 34 seconds off the pace.
Finally, first win with the Dacia and Rider team. Really happy 1-2 actually, with a great fight with this legend here, Seb and Edward, and I'm really happy to win this one and to be part of this. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Seb. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All smiles for Morais and Loeb then, but disaster struck for their teammate Nasser Al-Attiyah on stage 3, a DNF ruining his chances of big points in the W2RC.
Suddenly, before the finish, 70 kilometers, cars completely stop. I think have a problem with the electric, but we'll see.
Well, sometimes the pictures speak for themselves. So sit back and enjoy this magnificent mud fight between Eric Gokchau and Guy Botterill.
That was the pinnacle of rallying. We break a tire, he overtake us. Then he go out of the corner, we overtake him, we were fighting back and forth, so it was really nice.
Well, stage 4 saw João Ferreira claim his second win of the week. The Portuguese driver really pushing on the familiar home tracks to beat Loeb by just 18 seconds. But some punctures and penalties had left him playing catch-up overall, around 4 minutes back. He was on course for P3, 2 places lower than his original target.
100, another danger 2, keep up.
Just ahead of Ferreira was Seth Quintero. The American came close to taking the lead of the rally on stage 3, but a couple of late punctures cost him precious minutes.
I think we had a little bit over 2-minute lead, and to get 2 flats and to lose it like that is quite frustrating, but we're only 1 minute and 20 out of the overall, so we'll keep going as much as we can. I've turned a new leaf, I think, and it's nice to be a top 3 guy every day.
But try as they might, nobody could match the pace and consistency of Sébastien Loeb. The Frenchman coming second on stages 3 and 4 to increase his overall lead. He'd go into the last day with a cushion of 2.5 minutes over Quintero.
I tried to keep a good rhythm. I knew that Seth Quintero was pushing behind, so I increased the lead every day a little bit. So until now it's very good. So we'll see tomorrow what we can do.
Last year, we asked our riders and drivers to make us the perfect pastel de nata. Mixed results, let's say. So we've stayed out of the kitchen this year and we've come outside into the beautiful sunshine for a game of traditional petanca. Welcome to the arena.
Amigo. Exactamente.
They're cheating. Get your tape picture, go.
This one. Here we go. So no. We are cool. We are cool. So good, the last one. Congratulations. Congrats for the victory.
There they are. After their demonstration at the Dakar, Defender Rally brought all three of their cars to Portugal for the second round of the championship. Stefan Peterhansel, Sarah Price and Rokas Baciuska preparing for another rumble. And it was Baciuska, the Dakar winner, who made the brightest starts. The young Lithuanian winning stage 1 and just about keeping the overall lead on stage 2, despite a puncture. The stage 2 victory went to Sarah Price, who was just 2.4 seconds per kilometre slower on average than the ultimate cars, an impressive effort. The American beating Peterhansel by just 47 seconds.
In our category, it's very hard to make up time because, you know, obviously we're all fast. And so, you know, anyone can win.
Hello guys, welcome to Defender Rally. All three cars and crews are back and I'd like to invite you in to join us for our debrief.
Well done everyone. Three cars back, stage win for Sarah and Sean after difficult days yesterday. Just get brief feedback on the stage in the car.
Car was good. It was really good. Yeah, I just didn't know we were so far back starting from them. I didn't know what our pace was like until after the last transfer. But it was really tight. There's actually some rocky areas as well, and then there's a lot of water. Pushed within reason, I guess. And then, yeah, didn't take any crazy risks, but it was good.
Stefan?
Right, the car is really nice to drive. We take a lot of pleasure, and we have just a small problem with the brake at the end. We lose one fan to cool down the caliper, so we decided to drive slowly to the end, but at the end it's really good day. Yeah.
Average, I'm happy. Shower, sleep, repeat.
Thanks guys. Thank you.
Well, what a difference a day makes. After that win on stage 2, Price had brake issues on stage 3 and lost over an hour and 10 minutes. That ruined her overall prospects, although she did win again on stage 4. Baciuska had another puncture on stage 3 and lost 7 minutes, so he had to be content with second place overall. But he remains the championship leader by 26 points from Price.
We are happy we finished second.
We are still leading the championship. The team order was bring the car in one piece. We did that. And yeah, now it's in 2 months we'll be Argentina.
And so it was Petter Hansel who took the overall honours in Portugal alongside his co-driver Michael Metsch. Mr Dakar full of praise for the defender, saying it's a great car to drive. He stayed out of trouble and proved that at 60 years of age, he's still more than capable of putting the kids in their place, one of them in particular.
Rokas is really super excited. He wants to beat us, you know, so he wants to finish in the front of us. So we try to show that we are not completely died.
"16 cars took the start line in the Challengers, including the Dakar champion and W2RC frontrunner Pau Navarro. The Spaniard was trying out the all-new Viking, but it was a debut to forget for the Latvian prototype. They only completed one stage and were forced to withdraw from the rally. There was also a DNF for Dania Akil in her Taurus T3 Max. Following big problems on stage 1, the Saudi's engine gave up the ghost on stage 2, and that brought her rally to a premature end. Ricardo Perem, on the other hand, made a bright start, winning the first stage to become the early leader in the Challengers. However, various problems thereafter saw him shuffle down the standings to eventually finish in 10th place. Hook Classen isn't really used to these conditions, and she could only manage 7th place overall. The Dutch-born South African lost time on stage 1, and then she had no power steering on stage 2. But in spite of all that, she scored enough points to climb to 2nd place in the championship, behind Navarro.
I mean, overall it was cool. I scored some points, which I was more focused on, just the championship. So that's my goal going forward.
It was a better week for Puck's teammate Charles Munster, who was 2nd at this rally for the 2nd year running. The Luxembourger said that he's used to the rain back home, so he was more comfortable than most and only lost 6 minutes to the winner, Alexander Pinto. It was simply a masterclass from the Portuguese driver, despite this being a new class and a new car. The W2RC's reigning SSV champion reading off 4 straight stage wins to take victory in style.
I'm very happy for this, for all, and for the future. I keep push, I keep go take more, and thank you for all the team, all the sponsors. Thank you, Bernardo. I'm very happy for this moment.
Now to the SSVs, where Matthias Walkner was making his long-awaited comeback. The former bike star and Dakar winner was sidelined for several years by serious injury, so it's fantastic to see him back. He and his rookie co-driver Oliver failed to reach the finish line this week, but Matthias is ready for the next chapter in his storied career.
For me, the spirit, the passion is still the same, doesn't matter if it's 2 or 4 wheels.
Luis Cidade was on electric form this week, winning 3 of the 5 stages. Unfortunately, electric issues in the car on stage 2 led to a retirement and prevented the Portuguese driver from landing a good overall result. Still, he did get some shiny new medals for the mantelpiece. His factory teammate, João Monteiro, had a superb week. The Portuguese driver grabbing 2 stage wins and finishing 2nd overall. That earned him enough W2RC points to leapfrog Kyle Cheney and go top of the pile. Montero now leads his teammate Jeremias Ferrioli by 11 points, and Can-Am are in firm control of the manufacturer's standings. Luis Portela grabbed the overall lead in the SSVs on stage 2 and looked on course for overall victory until disaster struck on stage 4. A broken alternator forcing him out of the special and ending his hopes of a much-needed win. Well, Luis's loss was his teammate's gain. Miguel Barbosa taking over at the top after a very consistent outing and holding off Montero to win the rally by 2 minutes. The brilliant Barbosa didn't win any stages but was always on the podium, and at the finish line his thoughts were with his unfortunate teammates.
It was a shame for Luis and David. They were doing a great job, so congratulations for them. Congratulations for our team, JTB Racing. They did a fantastic job during all the week. The car is amazing, fantastic. My co-driver also, Joel, so congratulations to all. It's for them, this victory.
Confirmation of the overall results in Stock, Challenger and SSV, with wins for Petter Hansel, Pinto and Barbosa. In the W2RC, the classes are led by Bachuska, Navarro and Montero. And here's how the different manufacturers and teams line up across the board. The fifth and final stage of the BP Ultimate Rally-Raid Portugal brings us to Lulé. A bustling tourist town not far from the Atlantic coast, it welcomes the rally for the first time this year and will no doubt provide a fitting backdrop for the finale of this spectacular event. Stage 5 was split into 2 specials, 98 kilometres inspired by the Dakars and WRC events of old, and then a 2-kilometre spin next to the service park in the shadow of the local football stadium, the Estadio Algarve. Well, Portuguese riders had a lot to celebrate this week, and Gonçalo Amaral was particularly impressive. He was a cut above the rest in Rally 3, winning all but one stage and finishing over 2.5 hours clear of his nearest rival. He goes home with the class crown for the second time after 2024.
I'm very happy to be at the finish line at first. Last year we have a lot of bad luck. Everything happens to us, so this year I think it's a clean race for me.
Third time was a charm for Antanas Kanopkinas, who finally conquered this rally after coming second in the first 2 editions. He made the most of mechanical woes for his teammate Adomas Gancherius on yesterday's liaison, winning by almost an hour and a half. Portugal took another class win in Rally 2, and once again it was a repeat of 2024, with Bruno Santos coming out on top. The national star proved he can mix it up with the big boys over this terrain, and without yesterday's crash he might have been fighting for the overall podium. With some additional penalties, he slipped down to 5th place behind Edgar Canet.
This year with the weather conditions, the rain, the wet terrain was very special for me because I can always go. I can compete all my level and I can show the pace I have.
Tony Mulec still leads the Rally 2 World Cup, with Ventura now nipping at his heels, while Monster Energy Honda are the top team. Amaral and Kanopkinas are logically on top in the W2RC after the first round in Rally 3 and quads. In the main World Rally-Raid Championship, meanwhile, it's still Luciano Benavides who leads, even if this wasn't an easy week. The Argentine didn't expect to perform particularly well on tracks that don't suit him and ended up in 9th overall, but 10 points in the W2RC kept him on top by a slender margin.
At the end it's good because I finished in one piece. Another rally, we keep the lead on the championship. This is super important for me. The championship is super long and you have to perform on every different terrain.
Well, Ross Branch finished a couple of places above Benavides in 7th overall. The man from Botswana was also outside of his comfort zone this week, but avoided major errors and ensured that Hero got a bike to the finish line. Adrian van Beveren looked like a satisfied customer as he finished in third place. VBA was bitterly disappointed to crash out of this event in September, and even if he couldn't quite match the pace of the top two, this was a much brighter showing.
Last time I finished in the cliff, finished bad 6 months ago, so I tried my best, and I tried also to stay safe and stay on track this time, so I'm happy with the podium.
Tosha Sharina pushed Daniel Sanders all the way, but had to be content with second overall, finishing around 2 minutes behind the Australian. The Spaniard notched a couple of stage wins on his way to a second W2RC podium of the season, and that pushes him up to second in the championship. He praised Sanders for another captivating contest.
It was so fun with a big battle with Daniel until the end. The plan for today was all in. The plan was win, but you never know, no? I just take the good battles with him and see him in the next one.
So just 2 months after undergoing surgery to fix his dislocated shoulder, Sanders is already back to winning ways. This was a near flawless performance as he led from start to finish and took 4 wins. Chucky won't be giving up that number 1 plate without a fight, but he also had warm words for Sharina at the finish line.
I pushing the limits, and it's good to have strong competition and making ourselves better every race, and we know each other's going to be strong. We both respect each other, and we know how much we risk all day, and it's just a good feeling to have a strong competition.
1 minute 56 was the final gap between Sanders and Sharina, with VBA at 8 minutes 25. Everyone else was at least 20 minutes back. Benavides is still on top in the W2RC then, but Sharina and Sanders are breathing down his neck, while Ricky Brabeck drops to 4th after a difficult rally. That's 2 wins out of 2 now for KTM, but they only lead Honda by 3 points. The final stage in the cars, Sebastian Loeb with a 2.5 minute lead.
The gap we have is not enough for a puncture, so it's important to be concentrated, to try to keep a good rhythm, avoid the mistakes, and we'll see.
With Loeb setting off in search of glory, it was his teammate Lucas Morais who won the final stage. The Brazilian was there or thereabouts all week long, and in the end he finished 4th overall.
As always, it's very nice to come back here into racing in front of such incredible fans in Portugal, in Spain, and to finish off with a stage win again. So we won 2 stages this edition. Congrats to the whole Dacia team.
Well, no question about the least satisfied Dacia driver this week. Nasser Al-Attiyah's rally was ruined by technical issues on stage 3, and a DNF that day meant he only left Portugal with 7 points in the W2RC.
Nice to finish this race because this was very hard and very tricky. We don't have a good point, but okay, still we have 3 races and we try to do our best.
Marek Gokczał continues to dominate the W2RC Master Driver standings for gentleman drivers over 50. After taking top spot at the Dakar, the Pole doubled up in Portugal, finishing 10th in the cars overall. He leads Hernan Garces by 54 points in the championship. Toyota finished the rally with 8 cars inside the top 10, and Guy Botterill took P5. The South African nabbed a couple of stage podiums, but a few eventful days out on the muddy tracks prevented him from aiming higher. Like Morais, João Ferreira picked up 2 stage wins this week, and like Morais, he was hoping for a better result. Another podium finish for the Portuguese star in 3rd after he came 2nd in 2024, but he won't really be happy until he conquers his home event. The highest placed of all the Toyotas was Seth Quintero in 2nd place. The American had excellent pace all week, always in the top 5 and keeping Loeb honest at the front. Little by little, Seth is evolving into a genuine contender.
I knew it wasn't going to be easy to put 2.5 minutes in the Loeb, especially on a WRC stage. It's just not possible. So we've got 4 podiums overall in the truck and quite a few stage wins. So hopefully that big win's coming.
Loeb bringing it home for the Dacia Sand Riders. They may be leaving the sport at the end of the season, but seem determined to go out with a bang, winning the Dakar and now Portugal. Loeb securing his 3rd overall victory in Rally-Raid in a region that evokes fond memories of his glory days in the WRC.
To win again in Portugal is nice. I enjoyed really the rally. The stages are really interesting, like pushing like WRC. But we see the rivals are really strong. The young drivers are really fast on this kind of stages. So yeah, for sure, I'm really happy to win this one.
Loeb winning by 2 minutes 46 from Quintero, with Ferreira at 3:37. Marais and Bottrill complete the top 5, with Alentejo down in 18th. That means that Loeb is now leading the World Rally-Raid Championship by just 7 points from his teammate, with Quintero in 3rd. Edouard Boulanger sneaks ahead of Fabien Lurquin as the championship's top navigator. And with 2 wins from 2, Dacia are streaking ahead of Toyota and Ford in the manufacturer standings. This was the 3rd edition of the BP Ultimate Rally-Raid Portugal, and it was a spectacular one at that. Now it's time to celebrate our winners and enjoy some of the standout shots of this remarkable rally. Do join us again in Argentina at the end of May, and thanks for watching.